The story begins when, late at night, an unknown guy arrives at a huge mansion where the head of the most powerful family in the country lived. It was a man who had devoted his life to his country. Now he was dying. His closest people gathered around him, and the doctor informed everyone that the head of the family most likely would not survive tonight. Everyone was sad, but understood that it was inevitable, because he was already 98 years old. Suddenly, the door to the room flew open, and a stranger walked in, telling the dying man that he had 13 minutes and 19 seconds to live. The guards tried to stop the uninvited guest, but he coldly pressed a button on his watch, and something strange happened. All the men with guns froze motionless in place. Their time stopped. Only the family members, who did not understand what was happening, watched in horror. What is this superpower? Who is this guy? They thought. The guest asked everyone to relax and not to worry, and said he had only stopped time for a short time. Everyone was very excited at his words. Without stopping, the guest proceeded to the bedside of the dying man. Apologizing for his sudden appearance, the fellow introduced himself. He called himself Mr. Liu, a wandering merchant. He has one single commodity, and that commodity is time. 10 days ago, in the big city late at night, the guy was walking down the crowded streets from his unloved job. He felt like a little ant in this metropolis. At one time he had decided to stay here for the sake of his dreams, to fulfill his grandiose plans. But now he walked in the crowd of people running about his business and thought, "Unfortunately, in this world, I do not play a major role. Society is very ruthless. You are never rewarded according to the effort you put in. That's not the life I want to live." He thought to himself standing in the middle of the noisy street. Suddenly, he felt a sharp blow on his back. Some guy was very late and pushed him, running into a crosswalk, had a red light. Looking after the fleeing man, our boy suddenly had a strange feeling that told him the man's name, his age, and the time he had left to live. He had 3 seconds left to die. 2, 1. And then the astonished man saw the late man being hit by a car. The guy stood there in shock, unable to move, looking at the lifeless body. People around him rushed to the victim in terror, hoping to help, even though it was too late. Lee looked at the assembled crowd and couldn't believe his eyes. He now had the ability to see how long everyone around him had left to live. What's going on? Am I hallucinating? Scared, the guy thought. Suddenly, a pocket watch appeared right out of his hand. Amazed, he cautiously pressed the button, and everything around him froze. Time stood still. Even the raindrops hovered in the air. The people around him froze motionless in their seats. Lee giddily touched the shoulder of one of those standing beside him and immediately saw how some energy had flowed from his body to him. And the man's time of life had been shortened by 25 minutes. The astonished guy didn't understand what was happening. With his next movement, he pointed his hand at the girl standing next to him, and this energy immediately transferred from his hand to her body. Her remaining lifetime immediately increased by 25 minutes. It was incredible. Lee was shocked, but very happy to have acquired such an extraordinary ability. Time was in his hands. He realized this was his chance to change destiny, his chance to get out of this trap. He controls time, can control the length of a person's life. How many people in this city fight for money and position? But the most important thing is time. The value of the same amount of time is different for everyone, even though it is unbiased and equal for everyone. If I become a time merchant, I can control anyone's life. With admiration, the boy thought about his abilities. After a while, he was sitting at home, thinking about the best way to create a contract to buy and sell time. At the same time, his neighbor came home, all wet from the rain. She noticed that usually he looked so gloomy, but not today. What was wrong with him today? Why is he so seductive? She pondered on her way to her room, but immediately forced herself to stop thinking about this ordinary guy. It's not like he has a mansion downtown and a few million in his account. She walked away. The guy thought about her too. He thought she was a beautiful and intelligent girl. She wasn't for ordinary guys. But I'm not an ordinary guy now, thought the guy. He was able to control time, and now he could buy and sell time like an ordinary person. From now on, he decided to become a time merchant. I can buy time from other people and resell it for a higher price to those who need it. So thought the hero, drawing up a contract to sell time. The deed was done, and it was now necessary to find the first customer. The next day, Lee went to look for his first deal. He took all his savings for this purpose. Looking around, he saw only people not very suitable for him. An old man who didn't have long to live. A mother and her daughter wouldn't suit him either. Lee was a little upset. Though he could make a deal to buy time with anyone, he still wanted them to live longer too. Human life is precious, isn't it? He pondered. Suddenly, Lee saw a guy working a humiliating job for which he certainly didn't earn much money. A part-time student, just the thing. From the overheard conversation, Lee realized that this guy had already taken a few part-time jobs in order to buy a nice birthday present for his girlfriend. It sounds like he needs money right away. He's going to be my first client. Lou rejoiced, looking at the guy in the funny suit, who had more than 65 years to live. The student received a modest payment after the job was finished. The money was not enough for a gift, but he was not discouraged and wanted to continue his work after lunch. The very tired student waited until they brought him the cheapest noodles. Suddenly, our hero came up to him, and taking out his watch, he pressed a button. The surprised student saw how everything around him froze, and life around him stopped. He was frightened, and did not understand. Who was this strange man? How had he done this? And what did he want with him? Lou tried to reassure the guy, and introduced himself. He told him that he was a time merchant, and that his purpose was to buy time from people and sell it to those who needed it and had the opportunity to do so. Then he showed the student that he had more than 65 years to live. It looks like you will live to be at least 80 years old. A long life indeed. He cheered the boy up. He asked him if he would like to sell him some of his time. The student was very surprised when he was offered 300,000. Most ordinary people don't make that much in a year. He had his doubts. But that much money in a year of his life. Is that a great loss? He hesitated. All he had to do was put his name on the contract. He could live a long life anyway. If he could get that money, he could buy a present for his girlfriend, and in general he could buy anything he wanted, anything he had dreamed of for a long time. The decision was made. I'm selling. He answered the offer decisively and put his name under the contract. Immediately after that, something came out of his body and rushed into our hero. The time of his life was shortened by an hour. The deal was done. Lou was ecstatic, and with a snap of his fingers he turned back the passage of time. Everyone around him, as if nothing had happened, continued to have lunch. And the student got his suitcase full of money and already began to dream of new sneakers, a console, and a present for his girlfriend. The stranger left him his card in case he decided to make another deal and left. The first deal went better than I had imagined. The hero reflected as he walked down the street. He was now the owner of a year of his life. To whom would he sell it? That was the only question he cared about right now. Time. The most precious resource in our world. Now that I have taken control of it, I will have to choose the object of my transaction carefully. Thought the boy, sitting in a cafe in front of his laptop. He found out that the head of the Jun family was terminally ill. This family is very famous and influential, has a century-old history. Thanks to their flourishing business, they have managed to acquire untold wealth. This family has a brilliant reputation all over the world. Great, my next customer, pondered the pleased guy. In a luxurious mansion, at the bedside of a dying man, the doctor told his loved ones that nothing could be done. His time had come, he said. The old man lay there thinking, my time has come. I have been through the war, the turmoil. I have seen so much in my life, and now I have to leave this world, lying in bed like a coward. But I cannot die now, my family needs me. If I could live a little longer, I really haven't found peace yet." Suddenly, the old man was interrupted from his musings by a stranger who introduced himself as a time dealer and offered him what he had been dreaming of: time. People close to him didn't believe the guy and suspected that he was an ordinary crook. But since the old man had very little time, the family members asked him how much such an unusual item was worth. The answer was a fifth of what the customer had created in a year, equal to 1 year of his life. Everyone was outraged. That meant 100 million. A fabulous amount of money, even for such a wealthy family. Everyone began to resent the guy's insolence. But suddenly, everyone saw the old man stretch out his hand toward them and utter the word with the last of his strength. Life. The head of the family had made up his mind. He really wanted to live. The last seconds were left when he put his name on the contract. Thereafter, a bright light flooded the room, which came from the dying old man. Everyone watched in amazement as he grew stronger before their eyes and stood up on the bed. His life was prolonged for another 365 days. The deal was done, Lou enthusiastically declared. Everyone rushed to ask the old man how he was feeling. He replied that it was as if he had gone back a few years. "Even though I'm still old, I still have lots of energy," he declared. Lou congratulated the old man on another year of life and said goodbye. The guy left as suddenly for the others as he appeared, leaving only the account to which the money should be transferred. The moment he left, time went by. The astonished people stared at the old man who had risen from his bed and who, until a few seconds before, had been dying. The doctor could not believe his eyes. How could this be? What had happened here? Why are the rest of the family calmly accepting what is happening? Aren't they surprised by the gentleman's sudden recovery? And who was the guy who had burst into the room a few seconds ago and now was gone? The doctor didn't understand anything. The old man took the account number and told him to pay the full amount immediately. He never would have thought that such an incredible power existed in the world. It literally defied all the laws of nature. He understood that it was necessary to maintain good relations with Mr. Liu and not to antagonize him. The hero returned to the city and stood on the roof of the building, watching the city at night. He was very satisfied. Controlling people's destinies made him feel very good. He was very pleased with his decision to trade time. Whether it was a powerful family or an ordinary student, everything was under his control. He pondered. The role of time merchant was perfect for making these deals. However, as the number of clients increased, he would become more and more limited in his desires and intentions. So he decided he needed a clear plan. Suddenly, a brilliant idea popped into his head. An immortality club. The elite clubs are usually where all the rich and famous people from different regions flock. In his immortality club, the hero would become the sole supreme official, determining the club's policies. With power over all the members, it would be much easier to conduct business according to his desires and intentions. Liu pondered. My orders and instructions would be inviolable, and any objection would be inadmissible. He began to plan that the club would include ordinary people, the elite, and the wealthy from all over the world. Membership status can be divided into several levels, depending on financial possibilities. And depending on the level, a member will have the opportunity to purchase a certain number of years of life. This immortality club will be the most terrifying and mysterious organization on top of the world. And I will be its leader. With immunity and supreme power. Without holding back his ambition, Mr. Liu, the time merchant, dreamed. Walking down the street, Liu pondered further. He needed to find honest and reliable workers. And most of these people are forced to work all their lives to the bone. A cab driver interrupted his thinking. He was only 40 years old, but he looked much older. And he only had 13 years to live. Sounds like another man tired of work and credit. just like I was," the guy thought, and got in a cab. As soon as the guy got in the cab, the guy got a message that 100 million had been deposited into his account. The young man was impressed by the speed of the wrong family. They had sent such a large sum of money so quickly. They were obviously excited about this transaction, the guy thought. Unexpectedly, the cab driver received a call from his son. He told him his grandfather was in the hospital. It was urgent to go. The cab driver asked to take another cab, as he was in distress, but the guy said he was fine too, if he could get a ride to the hospital, and he would even pay extra for that ride. The cab driver was delighted at the coincidence, and they set off. On the way, he began to talk about his family. He had a very gifted son who was doing well in school. But in order to be able to go to university, he needed to take expensive additional courses. He also had a sick father. The cab driver didn't even notice how quickly they arrived. And when he turned around to apologize for his rant, the passenger was gone. All that was there was money, and a note that if he needed money, all he had to do was call this number, and he would get help. Mr. Liu watched from around the corner as the cab driver bent over in gratitude and shouted thanks, even though no one was in front of him anymore. He felt sorry for the man, but he didn't think he was the right person to thank. He felt that he would soon have a new client. In a back alley, he met a drunken, aggressive guy, who even started threatening him for looking at him the wrong way. As he walked by, he dropped a piece of paper, in which our hero noticed a terrible doctor's report. The hero immediately understood the reason for such behavior of the stranger. The next morning, Liu woke up later than usual. His neighbor, who was going to work, noticed this. She even thought that maybe he was tired of such a life and wanted to go home. So she quickly ran away. But the thing was, he didn't have to work anymore. A little later, the guy came to the real estate agency where the neighbor worked. He now had a lot of money and could afford a place to live. The girl was very surprised to see him here. She remembered that he had never had enough money, but maybe his family was helping him. In any case, she decided to help him find one. She began to offer him budget housing, which matched his salary. But the guy ironically rejected her offers and said he wanted a mansion. The girl was furious. She thought he was making fun of her and that it was just a stupid joke. She left and asked to be replaced by a young girl intern. She looks even more attractive when she's angry, thought Liu, looking at the angry neighbor watching nearby. The intern offered the best cottage half-jokingly, and the guy, without even looking at the pictures, replied that he was buying it and asked for a contract. The news that some guy was buying the most expensive mansion for $50 million quickly spread around the office. The girl was shocked. She had been renting an apartment with him for years, but knew nothing about him. And at the same time, she looked everywhere for another rich man. Yang Jaja couldn't understand how she hadn't noticed anything. A satisfied guy walked out of the agency in a great mood after his purchase. Suddenly, the cab driver from yesterday called him and asked if he could really be helped. So they arranged to meet. When they met, the cabbie told him of his dire situation. His father had suffered a stroke and urgently needed money for treatment. He was willing to do anything. The guy said he was willing to help him, but he needed something in return. With a snap of his fingers, he stopped time. Information about his life expectancy was revealed in front of the cab driver. The guy continued. He said he was a time merchant and explained all the terms of the deal. The cab driver thought for a while and answered that he was ready to sell even 3 years of his life. This really surprised the boy, but the cab driver said that 10 years would be enough for him, that his mission as a father was over. Well, that's your choice, Liu replied and provided the contract for him to sign. Another deal is struck. After the cab driver put his name, he immediately received his money. He thanked him and went to the hospital. Walking down the street after this encounter, our hero pondered. The money would help ease the burden, but when his time comes, will he not regret it? Suddenly, a bottle broke near his feet. It was the guy from the back alley. He looked like a stray dog. The thought made the hero laugh. But that smile made the guy angry, and he pounced on the hero, wanting to teach him a lesson for his mockery. And he is a real wolf, thought the guy at that moment and said, I just wanted to say that the doctor's report is not entirely accurate. And he added, you have 26 days to live, 12 hours and 18 minutes and 21 seconds. 20, 19, 18. And he quietly removed the stricken boy's hands. If you want to live more, follow me, he said, taking his time to leave. They continued their conversation in a deserted place, where no one could see or hear them. The boy told them he had leukemia and his name was Pan. He had left home, and his family probably thought he was dead. Suddenly, the hero used the clock and stopped time. The boy was frightened from surprise and did not understand what had happened. Lou tried to calm him down and told him all about the time dealer and said that he could help him, he could prolong his life. But in return, he would need his loyalty and his freedom. It was incredible. It was not like some cheap trick. Pan thought he had nothing left to lose. He was sick. He had brothers and sisters left behind, not to be burdened by his problems. He went to this town alone to earn some money before he died, but it was too late. He was too weak. If there's a chance to live a little longer, we should take advantage of it. And the boy made up his mind. He agreed. Lou was pleased with this decision and gave him 100 days. Immediately the counter was updated, and Pan's death was 126 days away. He couldn't believe it was happening to him, but the malaise was gone. Damn, it's all real, he exclaimed and fell to his knees, vowing to do anything in gratitude. Lou handed him a card and gave him 2 errands to start with. Get cleaned up and come to the address tomorrow. The address on the card. And then he disappeared, leaving the shocked boy alone. A little later, sitting at home, Lou was thinking. One could consider that the Immortality Club had already begun its work. Most of the cases he could handle alone, but as the club gained more clients, he would need more dedicated subordinates. As the club grows, he will need highly skilled people from all walks of life. And the more the better. His musings were interrupted by a loudly opened door, where a drunken neighbor stood with a half-full bottle of alcohol. She could barely move her legs. She came up to him and reproached him for keeping the truth from her all this time. He had gone too far, and as punishment he now had to have a drink with her. They had a drink. The girl was uninhibited and flirtatious. Who could stand that? Thought the boy, looking at the beautiful girl. The old one, he would have jumped on her right away, but not now. Taking her in his arms, he took the girl to her room and threw her on the bed. He said she was more attractive now than when she was sober, not as sneaky. The girl wanted to justify that she meant no harm, but he didn't let her finish, admitting that he actually liked girls as sly as her. But he's not who he used to be. Unexpectedly, the girl realized that she was fascinated by the hero. Early in the morning, the disheveled girl ran out of her room in a panic that she would be late for work. She had obviously had too much to drink last night. But Lou calmed her down by telling her that she didn't have to worry. He had arranged for her to take time off. That was very nice of him. She didn't know how to thank him. Lou said he was hungry, and she had a chance to show her culinary skills, to which she happily agreed. Such is the magic of money. They can give people charisma and charm, drive people crazy, pondered the guy, looking at the beautiful half-naked girl who was cooking breakfast. As agreed, that morning Pan came in for more errands. He had cleaned himself up and looked good. The girl was surprised that this stranger called Lou the master, but after pouring tea, she went to her room. Our hero gave the guy an employment contract, which he immediately signed, and he was instructed to find a student and find out any information about him. Taking the name, Pan immediately set off on his master's errand. The boy looked after the one who was leaving and thought, "It is much easier with subordinates. I would need reliable people to form a club." Now he had to get ready to build up a client base. Right now he could only use messengers, and he needed to create his own site. But with his years of programming experience, finding someone to help create an application would not be difficult. A little later, at a research university, a supercomputer was attacked. It was impossible, so securely it was protected. The next day, everyone knew that the information network of the city and the state had suffered an unprecedented virus attack. All financial markets were paralyzed, and the damage to the economy was in the hundreds of billions. The news reported that not only had the hacker managed to hack the supercomputer, but also to freeze very important data from the artificial intelligence laboratory. Experts in the field of psychology argue that the purpose of the mysterious hacker is the most usual attraction of the attention of the world on the background of a deadly disease. He is dying. Apparently, he does not have long to live. The Time merchant concluded, watching the news. He immediately contacted Pan, instructing him to go to the head of the family, Master Zheng. He wanted to borrow a good specialist. Somewhere else, a dying hacker was sitting behind a multitude of monitors. He watched the chaos that was his fault and gloated. Even with his incurable disease, he was capable of controlling a supercomputer. While his virus was completely destroying the system, he was able to disable the internet all over the world. The cancer was bringing him terrible suffering and pain that only pills could temporarily relieve. He didn't have much time. He had to put on a show for the world before he died. Suddenly, the hacker noticed that someone had hacked into his security and discovered his location. It was impossible. He was stunned and could not fix it, no matter how hard he tried. Suddenly, our hero appeared on the monitor in front of him, and he called him by name and said, "Robert, I know everything, and I know that you're going to die very soon." He said the last word, snapped his fingers, and time stopped. The hacker was stunned. He did not understand what was happening. A hologram appeared in front of him with his name, age, and the amount of time before death. "Too bad you have 10 days to live," he heard it from a stranger. "Who are you? How did you do that?" "What do you mean 10 days? The hacker Robert yelled in panic. But Mr. Liu continued in a calm voice. "Sometimes life and death depend on one decision. To believe or not to believe me is your choice, but only I can give you what you want. The most unique thing in the world. That's time," finished the hero and disappeared from the monitor screen, leaving the hacker in utter confusion. Liu knew that this hacker would have no trouble finding him, since he specifically asked to leave a digital trail. The professional who helped him do this doubted that such a hacker of genius would fall for these traces. But the LU understood that this guy may be a genius, but he's only human, and people are usually afraid of death. A little while later, at the airport in the city, the sick Robert was walking. He looked very bad. The journey had taken the last of his strength. He had to hurry to find the guy on the monitor. "I don't have much time," he thought, barely making it to the exit, where he asked the guard how he could get to the right place. At the same time, in his mansion, Mr. Liu and his faithful Pan were having a conversation. He complained that it had only been a few days since his life had been prolonged, and that his body had begun to weaken again. This news saddened the hero. He realized that the forced prolongation of life returned his body to the state it was in 100 days ago, but did not stop the progress of the disease. "My knowledge of medicine is not enough to solve this problem," the guy thought, but was not going to give up so easily and continued thinking. "A human being is made up entirely of cells and tissues. Would his abilities have the same effect?" An idea occurred to him as to how to fix it. He asked to find him a microscope and give him a blood sample. Seeing the incomprehension on Pan's face, he just trusted. "If my plan works, you are in for a big surprise," he added. A little later, looking at the blood sample through the microscope, Liu pondered. "I'm going to study time dilation, which I don't use very often. If you use this ability on different human organs and cells, then their lifespan should increase. Is this equal to changing the lifespan of the body as a whole? Blood cells also have lifespan, so my assumption is correct." The guy realized that if he used time dilation on these sick cells, then you can stop the rate of the pathology, and their harmful effects will be halved. At the same time, there was a high probability that they would be absorbed by the immune system. The guy was thrilled with his discovery. All he had to do was to stop the harmful cells from taking over the healthy cells in Pan's body. They had to be completely suppressed, decided the hero, pleased with himself. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise at the front door. When he approached it, he saw Pan grab a stranger and threw him to the floor. The stranger turned out to be the sick hacker Robert. He was a real genius if he could find him so quickly. The guy wanted to get to the point as quickly as possible. But looking at the bow, he began to doubt that he was the right Time Lord. For his disrespect, he immediately received a blow from the Pan who was standing nearby. A struggle ensued again. Lou got fed up with it and told both of them to stop in an angry voice. Then told Pan to come over to him. A demonstration of his abilities was the best way to convince the arrogant hacker. Lou had only to concentrate all his power on the object. Then he could control the timing of even tiny malignant cells. The guy concentrated and did 100-fold time dilation on a cellular level. Robert was shocked when he saw Pan's body fill with light like a ball of fire. The beam succeeded in slowing down the sick cells 100-fold. Pan felt a strange sensation. It was different from the first time. But all the pain was gone, and he felt full of energy. The guy was beyond excited. "Robert, what do you think?" Turned to the hacker, the Time Lord. But he sat there unable to utter a word. "Unbelievable. How is it possible? It is a true miracle. I do not feel any pain." Robert was going crazy with joy that his illness was gone too, thanks to Lou's ability. He was happy. He did not know how to thank the man who had saved his life. Lou offered the boy to join the Immortality Club, and Robert didn't think for a minute and immediately agreed and signed the contract. The hero voiced 3 of his assignments for him at once. First, he needed a global base of qualified personnel. It should include people with weak bodies, with incurable diseases, or people who were on the verge of death. Secondly, you have to create a base of rich people. A list according to age, wealth, and health. And one last thing. Right now, you need to create a secret and personal messenger. Finished giving instructions to the hero. He wanted to demonstrate a little trick to his clients. These tasks were easy for Robert.